The world of Runeterra is massive, and its history is just as large. In this series, I'm going to help you learn about its entire history, from the beginning when there was nothing to modern day. So buckle in, hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into it. With the Darkin dealt with for the time being, the lands of Runeterra were open to another power to come in and take hold. Many lifetimes ago, a fierce warlord named San Uzal rampaged across the northern wildlands. Driven by dark faith, he crushed every tribe and settlement in his path, forging an empire in blood and death. As his mortal life neared its end, he took great satisfaction in knowing he had doubtlessly earned a seat at the gods' table in the glorious Hall of Bones for all eternity. Yet when he died, he found no halls or glory awaiting for him on the other side. He grew increasingly bored of the afterlife, and soon, after the Darkin had been locked away, he began to call out beyond the veil, tempting those who may help him with endless strength. Eventually, a coven of sorcerers would agree to bring him back to life. He urged them to make him stronger than any mortal, as he was lacking any flesh or bone. They bound his spirit form into dark metal plates wrought in the likeness of his old armor. The sorcerers had hoped to use him to fight in their own petty wars, but San Uzal had different plans. Being raised as Mordekaiser, he slew the sorcerers where they stood, their armor and weapons showing to be completely useless against him. With his soul being completely restored in his new armor, Mordekaiser would begin his crusade across the lands, forming a new, more powerful empire and constructing the immortal Bastion in the northeast. During his conquest, Mordekaiser crushed and enslaved all who would oppose his rule, conquering much of the land. At the height of Mordekaiser's dark reign, it was said that a mythic and bloodthirsty fiends haunted the coastal cliffs of eastern Valoran, demanding young lives and savage worship from the local tribes. One day, a pale sorceress would approach the barbarian god Mordekaiser with an offer. The two would then feast together as equals, weaving magic so dark that it is said the wine on their tables would sour, and the vibrant red roses in the hall would wither to black. This encounter would later serve as the basis for a secret, underground Noxide society, with the pale sorceress as its matron. Mordekaiser would eventually be defeated after being betrayed by the same pale sorceress, now part of his inner circle. A hidden cabal would manage to sever the anchors that sealed his soul within his armor, eventually hiding his empty iron armor away and placing his soul in the Hall of Bones, where they would amass power for centuries to come. Half a century after the fall of Mordekaiser, a new change to the geography of Runeterra was about to occur in the southeastern island known as the Blessed Isles. Shortly after the death of the King of Camavor, his brother, Viego, would take up the throne and become the new king. Soon after his coronation, he would fall madly in love with a humble seamstress. Viego and the seamstress would have a whirlwind romance and quickly wed. Unable to focus on governing his country, he would focus on pleasing his new wife, fulfilling her every whim. Viego's enemies would begin to plot in secret due to his questionable leadership. His enemies would hire an assassin to snuff out the young king's life and nearly succeed if not for the speed of his general Callista. However, in saving his life, the assassin's blade, tipped with poison, would instead come into contact with the queen, dooming her to a certain death. Viego would search high and low for a cure, summoning the most profound scholars and doctors from across the land, none of them having a cure for his queen. Viego, becoming desperate, would send Callista off to search for a cure, having his new guard, Akaram, replace her in her leave, eventually sailing to the Blessed Isles, where she had heard of the long-lost waters of life. The island's inhabitants accepted Callista's request, and asked her to bring the queen to the island where they would cleanse her. However, they made her promise not to reveal the secrets of the island to others. While she was away, Viego would descend into madness, locking himself away in a tower with his queen until she would eventually die. Being unable to lead the kingdom, it would fall into chaos, many protesting his reign. The king would then order Hecarim to squash any and all insurrection in the kingdom. It was around this time that Callista would return from her journey to find she was too late and the queen had already passed. Viego would ask her what she had found, but knowing she was too late and seeing the mental state of the king, she refused to reveal what she had discovered. She would then be named a traitor. Hecarim would later find out she had planned to take them to the Blessed Isles. With this knowledge, Viego would set sail for the Blessed Isles with his armies, eventually asking the island's guardians to resurrect his queen. The guardians would refuse, sending Viego into a rage. He would order Callista to destroy the city Helia, to which she would refuse. Hecarim would then betray her, stabbing her with a spear and killing the soldiers loyal to her. Hecarim would then move to pillage and destroy the city. Viego would be guided to the waters by a custodian who would later be known as Thresh, eventually lowering the queen into its healing waters. The ritual would only be half successful in bringing the queen back to life, but as a horrifying wraith. The queen, being confused and filled with anger and pain from being ripped from death, she would take Viego's enchanted blade and lunge it through his heart. They would both fall and sink beneath the healing waters. The magic of the healing waters and the enchanted sword would clash, transforming the area around into a black mist. The magical energy would erupt, tearing across the land, corrupting the island and all of its inhabitants. Hecarim and his knights would attempt to flee, but were caught in the shockwave, fusing the riders and their steeds, transforming them into spectral riders. Shattering the barrier between the material and the spiritual realms, the souls of the dead would be trapped in eternal torment with the coiling black mist. The Blessed Isles, being forever lost within the black mist, would now and forever be known as the Shadow Isles, being completely abandoned by all right-thinking mortals. And that wraps up episode 6 of the complete history of Runeterra. Thank you all for making it out this far. We've only got a couple more episodes to bring us up to modern day, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Peace.